Okay, so if you're coming to the Topkapi Palace, you need some tickets. So one of the best tickets you can get is this ticket here. This is the first place on the planet where baklava came from. Now we're coming into the main room here, which is my favorite room in the whole of the Harem. There's loads of chambers, but the garden itself is a treat. Just look at the garden itself. It's acres of land. Whenever you go and see this room, it's just the energy in there is incredible. One of my other friends came inside over here. He said that he started getting tears in his eyes and he just didn't know why. It is believed that this is the sword with which the Antichrist, Al-Masih Dajjal, will be removed from this world. This is another of the footprint of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Absolute honor to be in the presence of this. Okay, so this is the courtyard. This is what you see when you enter the very first gates over here of Topkapi Palace. And in front of you is going to be the security area. And then you come into one of the main gardens that you can kind of enter for free before you have to get your tickets. Okay, so if you're coming to the Topkapi Palace, you need some tickets. So one of the best tickets you can get is this ticket here. It's 1,500 Turkish liras, which is about 33 British pounds, Great British pounds. With this, you can get the Topkapi Palace entrance. You can also get the palace entrance to the Harem as well, and to the Hagia Irene, which is a church over here. And you also get like an audio guide, all for 33 pounds. So I think it's quite a bargain, to say the least, because you get everything over here. And what's cool about over here is that you get this kiosk where you can kind of just pay with your card, but you can also go to one of the desks over there and also get the tickets from there too. So this is the kiosk bit. Okay, so you touch over here, touch the flag. I want about 3. So that's going to be about 4,500 credit card, and then you go ahead with it. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so I've got 3 tickets, 1,500 Turkish liras each, which is about 33 Great British pounds. This area over here is for free. So you can come over here, enter for free, go to some cafes. But if you want to enter into the Topkapi Palace, if you want to go to the Harem section, if you want to go to Hagia Irene, which is in the back over there, and you want an audio guide, all of that comes for 33 pounds per person, 1,500 Turkish liras, which is a bargain, I think, in my opinion. Now, the good thing is I got it from the kiosk over there. Just pay with a credit card because you have to stand in this line over here, this queue over here. You don't want any of that because it's going to be really crowded in there once you get in there. So this is a little hack, a travel hack that you need to know. So another quick hack is that you can, well, with this ticket, you can get a free audio guide. However, you can also scan the QR code over here and you get this app, and that will have all the information that you need that you can get with the audio guide. So if you want to kind of skip the queue and save more time, you can do so by getting this QR code onto your phone. So it's time to go in, and this is where you are going to use your ticket for the first time. It's quite crowded today. That's why you should be aiming to come here at 10 a.m., which is the opening time. It closes at 4 p.m. as well. So it's between 10 to 4 p.m. Now, as you enter into the Topkapi Palace, we are in the second courtyard. So this is when you have to use a ticket to enter. And over here, it gives you directions to the Harem, which is on that side. Also, you have the arms collection, you have the Imperial Council, and the clock collection as well. Our real first destination is going to be the Harem today, so we're walking towards it now. Now, I got an all-inclusive ticket to come over here. That means I get the Hagia Irene, I get the Topkapi Palace entrance, and also the Harem entrance. But if you just bought, let's say, the Topkapi Palace ticket only, then you would have to get an additional ticket to enter into the Harem, which is going to be about 500 Turkish liras, which is going to be around like 11 Great British pounds. Now, the Harem was the living quarters of where the Sultan himself, where the Sultan's mother, his wives, the children, the princes, they would all live over here. So this is the living quarters. And this is why it's a separate price. But I've been here once before. And I was really, really impressed by it. So I can't wait to show you once again the harem of the Topkapi Palace. One of the cool areas of the harem section is this pathway here, which is quite narrow, and it ascends up. Really cool. It's an incline walk. Now we're coming into the main room here, which is my favorite room in the whole of the harem. And just wait and see, because it looks magnificent. And imagine after all these years. So this is the Imperial Hall, and it was built in the year 1585 by the architect Dawood Ah. So this was used as a sultan's ceremonial and as a reception hall. So when there was like Bayram, when there was some sort of important events that was taking place, like weddings taking place, it will be taking place in this very Imperial Hall over here. What's incredible is that wherever you go in this palace, you have calligraphy, you have inscriptions, you have like Quranic writing everywhere. And whether you come into this palace or whether you go into like any palace or castle around the world, I've been to many of the castles in Germany as well, depending on, it doesn't really matter what religion you're of, but there's always this emphasis on believing in the divine, believing in a higher power. And what's quite incredible is that if someone is a sovereign sultan or a sovereign emperor or a king, to have that much power but to still believe in a higher power is incredible, because they feel accountable about themselves. That's why monarchy is something that I prefer over democracy, because with democracy, it seems as though a lot of the leaders don't really have someone to answer to, and they don't have no emphasis on God. And that is something that is quite apparent when you come into palaces and you come into castles like this. You know, this is obviously a palace. Everywhere you look, you've got beatific, heavenly writing everywhere, and it's reminding them, if you look at the meaning of these writings, it's reminding them of the divine power that's giving them victory, that's giving them the authority to rule at that given moment in time. So it's beautiful to experience that firsthand, and to know that, you know, it's engraved on the walls over here for centuries, that we can, after centuries, view it and become aware that there's no doubt that these people who rule the world from this very palace over here, Sultan Suleiman I, Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, or Sultan Suleiman Kanuni, he went into 3 continents in the 73 nations. That was when they were ruling the world. They had formidable power, and in spite of that, look at the emphasis that they have on the divine, giving them the power, giving them the authority and the sovereignty to rule over God's subjects, i.e. his people, his creation. So just come out of the harem section now, and whether you're wondering whether it's worth coming into this part, because you obviously have to pay a separate amount of money to get into this area, I would say that you should definitely come over here, especially if you're coming for once to the Topkapi Palace. If this is your first time, I would highly recommend you to come and check out the harem, because you get an extension to, it really enhances your whole experience of the Topkapi Palace itself, just coming over here. Now, we're gonna be looking at the Topkapi Palace, the main entrance area, the main area now. And one thing I want to say is that the Topkapi Palace was used by the Ottoman Empire for about 4 centuries, between the mid-15th century to the mid-19th century. And from here, we had the likes of Fatih Sultan Mehmed, who was 21 years old when he conquered the longest reigning empire in history, the Roman Empire, by bringing down the Byzantine Empire in the year 1453. And after Fatih Sultan Mehmed, there was the likes of Sultan Selim Khan, who was the very first Khalifa of the Ottoman Empire. And he got the Holy Relics from Alexandria in Egypt. and that made him the Khalifa of Islam at that point. So he was the 9th Sultan at the time, and then his son, Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, he was also reigning over here. He had the longest reign from all of the 36 sultans that have already appeared, with a reign of 46 years. And in his reign, he was able to go into 3 different continents, into 73 different nations. Essentially, he ruled the world. He had tremendous sovereignty. He was also a Khalifa at the time of Islam. And that's why I love coming here, because this is history. This shows you how much of a foothold the Ottoman Empire had on the entire planet from this very place, from this very location. And that's what makes it very powerful. And the Ottoman Empire are the most successful empire in the history of Islam after the Rashidun Caliphate. Now, the Topkapi Palace has so many chambers over here that you can view, like the kitchen. They have like an area where the coronations were taking place. They have an area where the sultans would sit down and have their iftar. They'll break their fast during Ramadan. There's loads of chambers, but the garden itself is a treat. Just look at the garden itself. It's acres of land, and it just looks a treat looking at it. All the great people, all the people of the past, all the great men, they always held a cane, which is always nice to see, and to get a reminder that that's how the world is operating until like the 1950s, really. And after that, people started saying, oh, you know, if you hold a cane, you're an old guy. It doesn't really mean that. So this place was the living quarters of everyone that worked in the kitchen during the Ottoman era. So we are going to see briefly some of the rooms over here with regards to the kitchen and some superb things. So follow me. Also, guys, write in the comment section below whether you are going to be coming to the Topkapi Palace, or if you've already been here, and write in the comment section how you found it if you have come over here, and I'll answer back to you. Now here we have another room. This is the palace kitchen room. So let's have a look at this. So this section has all of the pottery, the cutlery in which the food would be served. This one is really cool. I'm going to highlight this one because this was 170 pieces belonging to the set have survived, each inscribed with Arabic verses from the Quran. It is believed to have been custom made. Now this is from the Chinese Qing dynasty, which is the second half of the 18th century. So it's got that Chinese design to it. So this one is from Beylar Bey Palace. We went there yesterday, super impressive. And this was used during the banquets, the big feasts that would take place at Beylar Bey Palace. Beylar Bey Palace is where Sultan Abdul Hamid II, he wailed from this world. He spent the last 9 years of his life over there. So you see over here, look at this. Really impressive. So you can imagine, and I was looking at one of the rooms there yesterday, and I can now imagine all of these full of food on the table for a grand feast. So this is the confectionery kitchen. So let's have a look. So halvahane, which is the Turkish word for confectionery kitchen. Now, this is, for me, the most important part of this kitchen section here at the Topkapi Palace, because this is the first place on the planet where baklava came from. So if you are a fan of baklava and you have it frequently, then be sure to be thankful towards the chefs that were operating in this kitchen over here. And perhaps a reason for you to come to the Topkapi Palace as well. So this is from the 18th century, all of this. Now, these are the cauldrons that they would use to make the sweet dishes over here. So these are the copper halva pans, okay? So this is all from copper. And you also have a depiction over here of someone that's serving the sweet dishes. So he's making the halva over here. Bear in mind one thing, that these sovereign sultans who ruled the world, they were being nourished from this kitchen over here. So it's amazing. So right now, you can see over here, it says Muqaddas Emanullah. This is the Holy Relics. And what it means by that is that you'll see some holy relics of many of the prophets of Islam, including Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you'll also see his sword, and you'll also see other relics. You'll also see the sword of Prophet David or Prophet Dawud alayhi salam as well. So whenever you go and see this room, it's just the energy in there is incredible. Like spiritually, it's immensely powerful, and I can't describe it. I once went over here with my friends, and they couldn't even describe the feeling that they felt. One of my other friends came inside over here. He said that he started getting tears in his eyes, and he just didn't know why. So there's tremendous spiritual power in there, and usually to get in, there is like a huge line, but it's really worth the wait. And if there's one room, if there's one chamber that you have to go to when you come to the Topkapi Palace, it will be this one. So I highly recommend it. This sword over here is the sword of Prophet David, Dawud alayhi salam, and it is believed that this is the sword with which the Antichrist, Al-Masih Dajjal, will be removed from this world. First, when the Ottomans come, they will take it, and Sultan Selim IV, the new Sultan, will give it to Imam Mahdi alayhi salam in Konya, and then Imam Mahdi alayhi salam will give it to Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, and he will be with this when he gets rid of Al-Masih Dajjal. In the heavenly realm, there's no time. This is the sword of justice. This is another of the footprint of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the greatest creation in history. Rahmatullah alameen, mashallah. Absolute honor to be in the presence of this. Absolute honor. There's no words that can describe the honor to be able to see this. Alhamdulillah. So this is the Imperial Clothing section. So here you have the garments of some of the most formidable sultans of the Ottoman Empire. So here you have the garment over here of Sultan Selim I, who was a sultan for about 8 years between the years 1512 to 1520. You also have the garment over here of Fatih Sultan Mehmed. So the 21-year-old sultan who brought down the 1900-year Roman Empire. He brought down the Byzantine Empire, and the prophecy of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was fulfilled once he conquered the Byzantine Empire. This belonged to Sultan Selim as well, and all of these are magnificent. You have a picture here of Sultan Selim as well. So you have this here as well. This belongs to Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent as well, and absolutely magnificent. You also have a picture here of Sultan Suleiman, the longest reigning sultan of the Ottoman Empire, with 46 years as sovereign reign. So I'm surrounded here with 4 of the garments of 3 of the sultans, the 3 among the greatest sultans of the Ottoman Empire. This is the most powerful era of the Ottoman Empire. Sultan Selim, you have Fatih Sultan Mehmed, and you have Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. Again, you're in the company of greats here. So super happy to be here. So this one over here belongs to Sultan Abdul Majid, and he came in the 19th century. This also belonged to one of the sons of Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent as well. This here belonged to Sultan Bayezid, the second son. Look how beautiful that is. This also belongs to Sultan Bayezid, the second son as well. Look how huge the stature of these princes and sultans would be. Well, when I look at this reminds me of something that Michael Jackson would wear back in his heyday. And he was inspired heavily by monarchy So you can imagine him somehow coming across something like this to inspire his designs of what he used to wear in his concerts. So now obviously they have this exhibits here of the clothes that the sultans used to wear and like the children would wear, the wives would wear. But before, in its heyday when the Topkapi was running as a palace, in those days, this used to be a school full of boys. So they would learn stuff like archery over here. So they would learn how to battle as well. They would learn archery, they would learn music, they would learn poetry, they would learn a lot of things over here. So that was the use of this room in those days. That's how it was utilized. So in the most successful period of Islamic history, you will see that there was a clear emphasis on wearing these types of clothing where there's a lot of Quranic writing on it. It was inscribed onto the whole garment itself, and many times they would wear this when they would go to battle. And it's funny how in today's time, in the last century, when we are in the worst period of our history, perhaps after the 13th century when the Mongols were getting rid of so many Muslims in that time, that people have gone away from this. They're like, oh, this is shirk. This is what people say. But this is what the Ottomans were using because the Ottomans were Sufis. And every single Ottoman Sultan, out of the 36 Sultans, followed a spiritual guide. They followed a Sufi sheikh. They followed a spiritual guide who was guiding them. In spite of the fact that they were sovereign kings, in spite of that, they were still being guided by a spiritual guide who would give them perspective, who would give them guidance towards what to do in terms of making decisions so that the ego never got in the way. And the ego, if you're left alone with your ego, you do wrong things. So this over here is beautiful. You look at this, no wonder why one of the sultans, he went into 37 battles and he won all 37 of them. And many of those battles, he was outnumbered. They would wear this, they would take spiritual support, they would take divine support really. The support of Allah was with the Ottomans and they would be victorious always. Now this is the garment of Jem Sultan. This is one of the sons of Fatih Sultan Mehmed. And he went to France and married one of the daughters of a king, Charles VIII. And from his children will come the 37th Sultan of the Ottoman Empire, which is Sultan Selim IV, who will be the last of the Selims, because Sultan Selim I, we saw his garment over there, and he'll be the fourth, Sultan Selim IV, who will come from the country of France. This is the dormitory of calligraphy. So over here, you're going to find a multitude of frames here with Quranic writing, with holy writing, and beautiful calligraphy in different colors, in different designs, and super impressive. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. So this is depicting a picture of 3 people in Ottoman era doing the calligraphy. So really like this painting here. So this is the ink. They would use it from within to do the calligraphy. So you can kind of view a video here, and it's going to give you an insight as to how they used to do the calligraphy. And then you also have like an upstairs section as well. So there's 2 floors. Also got AC in here because it's really hot outside, but just for the calligraphy itself, it's worth coming here. So we've just come out of the Treasury Room, and this is part of the section. By far the most crowded room in the sense that you had to stand in the longest queue possible. However, it was worth the wait because you get to see the swords of some of the key sultans. So this sword belonged to Fatih Sultan Mehmed. It's majestic. These belong to Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent. So Sultan Mustafa III, this is his armor. You run out of superlatives. I would just say majestic, but look at that, the grandeur of this. Imagine how heavy it would have been to actually wear that at battle, and how strong and physically built you have to be to actually wear that. Over here we have the takht, which is the throne of the Sultan. So again, look at that. Look how that is built. You get to see the heirlooms, you get to see diamonds, you get to see war booty, you get to see some really special items that belong to the Ottoman Sultans and to their families as well. So this view I've never seen in the Topkapi Palace, in spite of the fact I've been here so many times as well. So let's have a look. Look at this. That's marvelous. You get to see also the wall of the old Constantinople, which was conquered by Sultan Mehmed. Okay, so right now we are going to the Thei Pavilion, and this is where the Sultan would sit down and eat his iftar during Ramadan when he would break his fast, perhaps with his family. And you also get another great view from there. You get the view of the Bosphorus, but you also get a view of the Galata Tower from here as well. And you've got some amazing gardens surrounding this area. Right now we are here. The Iftari area. And imagine this. So they would be having, the Sultan would be having, he would break his fast here, and then you get a view of the Galata Tower over there as well. So it's really good. And down here, you have this impressive garden area, which is much more wider than what you can see over here on the screen right now, because there's a whole area over there with some really cool statues of lions there. Now, we're going to go into that room there. This is called the Baghdad Pavilion. So this is when Sultan Murad IV's Baghdad expedition took place. It was to commemorate that in the year 1638 to 1639. And you see this impressive throne here, taht. This section is called the Garden of Lions, and I wonder why, when you've got these really cool statues of lions over here roaring. So this is the Topkapi Palace, which opens between the times 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And you kind of need a whole day here. Like if you really want to see this properly, if you're coming here for the first time and you're someone that loves museums, you love reading about history, you are curious about past nations, empires, monarchies, you need a whole day here because there's so much information. And it's a massive part of the Ottoman Empire because 4 centuries, between the middle of the 15th century to the middle of the 18th century, so for 400 years, the Ottomans were here. So that's a large part of this dynasty. And so it's not just you reading about 1, 2, 3, 4 sultans, you're reading about many of them. You have a lot of their relics here, you have a lot of their objects and items over here, and you also have a lot of the items of the prophets, alayhi salatu wasalam, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Sahaba, his companions. And so when you come here, if you really want to do justice in terms of wanting to see as much as possible, I would suggest that you spend the whole day over here.